He was a field commander stranded deep in the Caucasus. His recon team scattered his mission to remain unseen. But when the surveillance jet carrying his sister went down behind enemy lines, duty turned into blood. Adam Ward, a veteran soldier marked by faith and failure, chose defiance over orders, hunted by the ruthless Valerius, and swallowed by a storm that erased the living from the earth. His greatest fight wasn't against the enemy, but against the silence inside his soul. And when the mountain demanded his life, his only hope for redemption came from the loyalty of his wounded dog. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from, and if this story moves your heart, please subscribe for more tales of faith, loyalty, and the miracles God still hides in the snow. The wind over the Caucasus cut like broken glass, thin, dry, and ancient. It howled across the snowfields, carrying echoes of a war no one admitted still existed. Beneath that endless white expanse, a team of 6 Navy SEALs moved like shadows between the ridges, their gear blending perfectly into the frozen world. At the front was Lieutenant Adam Ward, 34, tall, broad-shouldered, with a hard, chiseled face that looked carved from the same granite cliffs they crossed. A faint scar ran from his temple to his jaw, a souvenir from Afghanistan. His gray eyes were cold and calculating, but beneath them simmered something softer, an old grief that time hadn't quite erased. The kind of pain that makes a man more dangerous, not less. Adam had always carried the weight of others. He was the kind of leader who didn't shout. His silence was command enough. The men trusted him because he never lied, never flinched, never let fear show. But today, something gnawed at him, an unease that even years of discipline couldn't suppress. It wasn't the mission that worried him. It was her. High above, cutting through the swirling clouds, flew an unmarked reconnaissance jet, their eye in the sky. Inside that cockpit was Captain Maya Ward, Adam's younger sister, 28, lean and athletic, with the kind of beauty that belonged more to motion than stillness. She had her brother's eyes gray and sharp, but where his were burdened, hers still carried a spark of defiance, a refusal to surrender. She had joined the Navy because of him, but she had stayed because she refused to live in anyone's shadow. Maya's voice crackled through Adam's earpiece. "Eagle 1 to Ghost Team, thermal sweep clear. No movement within 3 clicks." Her tone was professional, steady, but Adam could hear the fatigue in it, the tremor she tried to hide. She'd been flying for 14 hours straight. "Copy that," Adam replied, crouched behind a jagged rock. "Maintain altitude and circle north. We're moving to Vantage Point Charlie." Beside him, Chief Petty Officer Ryan Bishop Cole, the team's medic, adjusted his pack and gave Adam a sidelong look. Ryan was in his late 30s, wiry and weathered, with the cynical humor of a man who'd seen too much and learned to laugh at it. His once black hair was going gray at the temples, and a patchy beard clung to his jaw. "You trust Command's intel on this?" he muttered, scanning the horizon. Adam didn't answer immediately. He adjusted his rifle's scope, watching the distant valley shimmer with heat mirages rising from hidden engines. "Intel's never the problem," he said at last. "People are." Trailing a few meters behind was Corporal Diaz, the youngest of the team, barely 24, with tan skin, quick hands, and a restlessness that came from needing to prove himself. He admired Adam the way sons admire their fathers, silently, intensely, almost painfully. "Sir," he whispered, "I've got a bad feeling about the weather." The sky was changing. The wind had shifted east, carrying the metallic scent of an oncoming storm. "Storm's not our enemy," Adam replied without looking back. "Fear is." At their flank, a German shepherd moved soundlessly over the snow. Saber, 5 years old, black and tan coat thick as fur armor, eyes amber bright with intelligence. He wore a tactical harness and carried a small camera on his shoulder. To the untrained eye, he was just a dog. To Adam, he was a soldier, a partner forged through chaos, loyalty, and fire. Saber's right ear bore a small scar, a thin line of white, where shrapnel had kissed him 2 years ago in Mosul. They reached the ridge at 0900 hours. The sun was a dull disk behind thin gray clouds. Adam gave a hand signal. "Halt!" The men sank into the snow, rifles steady, eyes scanning. Through his optic, Adam saw it, a column of smoke far to the north, thin but distinct. "Eagle 1, he called. "Confirm heat signature at grid." Static. "Maya, come in." Nothing. Then suddenly a voice. Maya's, but broken, fragmented by interference. "Adam, missile, North Ridge." The rest was static. Adam's blood went cold. He looked up, instinctively scanning the sky. The distant hum of jet turbines became a roar. Then, slicing through the clouds, a streak of white light erupted upward. A surface-to-air missile, trailing a serpentine plume. "Maya!" The missile hit. No explosion at first, just a flash, a burst of unnatural light swallowed by snow. Then the shock wave hit like a hammer. A bloom of fire and smoke tore across the clouds. Metal shards rained down in slow motion, glittering against the gray sky. Adam's heart seized. "Eyes up!" he barked, his voice steady but hollow. The men turned their scopes skyward. Through the drifting debris, a small shape fluttered, a parachute, white against white. "She's alive," Diaz whispered. "Mark it," Adam ordered. "Saber, track." The dog sniffed the air, ears pricked, and let out a low growl. He had caught her scent. Within minutes, they reached the impact zone. The wreckage was scattered across a frozen ravine. Metal twisted and smoked, the remnants of the aircraft still burning faintly. The snow around it was streaked with crimson, and nearby, tangled among the branches, they found a torn section of parachute, American issue. Bishop knelt, gloved hand brushing the snow. "Blood trail, still warm, she's moving." Adam crouched beside him. The tracks were uneven, one boot dragging. Whoever had taken her, she'd fought hard. "Command needs to know," Bishop said. "We've got wounded or captured personnel. Protocol says—" Adam's jaw tightened. "Protocol says we report and wait." He looked toward the dense pines where the tracks disappeared. "You think she has time for that?" Ryan hesitated. "You break radio silence. You compromise the team." "I'll handle it," Adam said quietly. He switched channels, pressing his mic close. "Command, this is Ghost Actual. Recon aircraft down. 1 survivor, possible capture. Request permission for immediate extraction." The reply came back cold and sharp. "Negative. Ghost Actual. Mission parameters do not include retrieval. Maintain observation only." Adam stared into the static as if it might change. Then he exhaled slowly. "Copy that," he said, and turned the comms off. "Sir?" Diaz asked. Adam's eyes hardened, the kind of look that made orders unnecessary. "You'll take the team back to Checkpoint Echo. That's an order." Ryan stepped forward. "You're not going alone." Adam gave a faint, humorless smile. "She's my sister, Bishop. You do the same." Ryan didn't argue. He just nodded once, the silent understanding of soldiers. Adam slung his rifle, checked his sidearm, and tightened Saber's harness. The dog looked up, sensing the change. "You and me again, boy," Adam whispered. "One more ghost hunt." Snow began to fall, thick, heavy, blinding. The world shrank to white. Adam moved into it, Saber by his side, the rest of the team fading into the storm behind him. Far off, carried by the wind, came the faintest sound, a cry or maybe a laugh, then gunfire. Adam froze, his pulse spiking. He couldn't see her, couldn't see anything, but he felt it. She was alive. Somewhere in that blizzard, Maya was fighting back. He adjusted his rifle and pushed forward into the storm. The hunt had begun. Snow fell thicker now, blanketing the mountains in a silence that felt almost sacred. The storm had swallowed the world, and Adam Ward moved through it like a ghost. His breath steamed behind the fabric of his mask, each exhale a fleeting cloud that vanished into white oblivion. Saber trotted ahead, nose low, his tan and black fur dusted with frost. The German shepherd's ears twitched at sounds Adam couldn't hear. Distant metal, the echo of engines, the heartbeat of danger hidden beneath the snow. They had been tracking for 3 hours since the last gunfire. The blood trail Maya had left behind grew thinner, smeared by the wind. Adam crouched to inspect it, touching his gloved fingers to the crimson frozen against the snow, still warm beneath the surface. "She's close," he muttered, his voice barely more than a thought. Saber looked up at him, amber eyes glinting with understanding. The dog's breath puffed in small bursts as he waited for Adam's next signal. The terrain shifted from open plain to a jagged canyon where the wind screamed between the rocks. The snow here was broken, disturbed. Boot prints, tire treads, and signs of dragged weight. The enemy had found her first. Adam's jaw tightened. He raised his rifle and signaled Saber to stay low. They crept along the ridge until a dim orange glow appeared below. Firelight, flickering inside a half-collapsed wooden outpost tucked against the canyon wall. Through his scope, Adam saw movement. 4 men around a makeshift campfire, their rifles slung lazily as they drank from dented flasks. At their feet, a figure sat slumped against a support beam, wrists bound, head bowed. Even through the snow glare, Adam recognized the streak of dark hair. Maya. Her flight suit was torn, blood drying on her sleeve, her face pale under the bruises. But she was breathing. Adam steadied his scope. One of the soldiers turned, tall, broad, with a long black beard and eyes that glowed amber in the firelight. His uniform was mismatched, a patchwork of camouflage, civilian gear, and arrogance. Adam knew his type. Mercenaries working under Valerius's private command. The leader barked something in Russian-accented English. "She's worth more alive. Command wants her talking before sunrise." He was Sergeant Oleg Kravchenko, a veteran of too many wars, the kind of man who had learned to laugh while burning villages. His nose was crooked from old breaks, and a wolf's grin split his face when one of his men offered him another swig of vodka. Adam's pulse slowed. His training took over. He surveyed the ground, 2 guards near the fire, one pacing by the perimeter truck, another smoking behind a crate. 4 targets. He had 3 magazines and 1 dog. He whispered, "Saber, circle left." The shepherd disappeared into the snow without a sound. Adam moved along the upper ledge, descending inch by inch until the campfire's glow lit the frost on his rifle barrel. When the first guard turned to light another cigarette, Saber lunged from the shadows, knocking him backward. The man's shout was cut short by the dog's jaws closing on his arm. Adam fired twice, the sound muffled, two red blossoms blooming across the firelight. The second guard dropped. Kravchenko spun, reaching for his rifle, but Adam was already on him. The fight was fast and brutal, a blur of fists, snow, and steel. Kravchenko swung the rifle like a club, grazing Adam's shoulder. Adam countered with a knee to the gut and slammed his elbow across the man's jaw. They fell together into the snow, rolling through the ash and blood until Adam's knife found its mark beneath the mercenary's ribs. Kravchenko's breath hitched, then stilled. Adam looked up, panting. Only the crackle of fire answered him. Saber stood nearby, muzzle stained dark, one paw pressing down on the last wounded guard, who whimpered into the silence. Adam ignored him. He rushed to Maya, cutting her bindings. Her wrists were raw, her breathing shallow. "You took your time," she whispered weakly, lips cracked, but eyes bright with stubborn fire. "Always have to clean up after you," Adam said softly, relief breaking through the steel in his tone. She smiled faintly, then winced. "You shouldn't be here, Adam. Command's not here," he interrupted, wrapping his arm around her shoulders to lift her. "We're moving." He searched the camp for supplies, finding a half-broken map and a radio. The call sign stenciled on the crate near the fire made his stomach tighten. V-Unit. Valerius's elite division. This wasn't a random patrol. They had come specifically for her, for the intel she carried. Maya caught his expression. "They knew my flight path," she said quietly. "Somebody leaked it." Adam froze. Betrayal wasn't new to him, but it always cut the same. He had lost friends before to leaks and politics. He wasn't going to lose her. Not again. He secured her with a thermal blanket and motioned for Saber. The shepherd padded close, pressing his warm body against her leg. Maya smiled faintly, brushing the dog's head. "Still my favorite soldier." "Don't let him hear that," Adam muttered, scanning the ridge. "We need to move before sunrise." They left the camp behind, smoke curling upward like a signal to the dead. Adam led them into a narrow ravine where the snow muffled every sound. Maya limped, but refused to slow down. Her resilience both comforted and haunted him. The same stubbornness that had gotten her into the sky that morning, the same that might get her killed. At dawn, the wind eased, the horizon blushed faint pink, revealing a vast basin below. And in the distance, a sprawl of lights, a fortified compound built into the rock. Adam lifted his binoculars, and his chest tightened. Trucks, watchtowers, antennas. "That's not a camp," he whispered. "That's a base." Maya leaned on his shoulder, eyes narrowing. "That's where my black box signal is broadcasting from. They're using it to trace our communication routes." Adam swore under his breath. The crash hadn't just been an accident. It was bait. Valerius had orchestrated it to draw them out. He checked his watch. The storm would clear completely in an hour. By then the enemy would discover the dead patrol and know she'd escaped. "We're too close to pull back," Maya said. "If they track that signal, they'll find your whole team." Adam didn't respond. He was staring at the base, his mind calculating, shifting, hunting for a way in. The ice cracked beneath his boot, a faint sound, but enough to remind him how fragile the ground beneath them really was. Finally, he said, "We end this here?" Maya looked at him, her expression hardening. "You're thinking about going in alone." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. She already knew. Saber growled softly, sensing the tension. The wind carried a faint metallic scent. Fuel, oil, and something else. Blood. Adam raised his rifle, eyes narrowing. They're already moving. Far below, 3 black trucks rolled out from the compound, headlights slicing through the snow. At their center, standing in the open hatch, was a tall man with a shaved head and a heavy coat trimmed with gray fur. Even from this distance, Adam recognized him instantly. Commander Valerius, the ghost of countless missions gone wrong, the man who left nothing alive behind. Adam's breath frosted the air as he whispered, "He knows we're here." The engines roared louder, echoing off the cliffs. Saber's ears went up, and Maya's eyes widened as the first spotlight swept across the ridge. The hunt had turned. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was worse. Every sound seemed to echo in the frozen air. The crunch of boots, the low growl of the wind between the cliffs, the faint hum of engines somewhere below. Adam Ward crouched at the edge of the ridge, scanning the valley through his scope. The convoy they'd spotted earlier, 3 trucks, 2 armored jeeps, was carving a dark trail through the snow, and leading them was Commander Valerius, his tall figure framed in the headlights like a wolf stalking prey. Adam's face was streaked with frost and determination. The cut above his brow had reopened, bleeding slowly down his temple, but he didn't notice. Every cell in his body was focused on one thought: ending this. Behind him, Maya leaned against the rock, her wounded leg bound tight with torn fabric, her breath visible in the frigid air. She was pale, exhausted, but her eyes burned with the same steel resolve as her brother's. Saber lay beside her, silent and alert, his fur stiff with ice, every sense tuned to the movements below. "They're spreading out," Adam murmured. "Standard search formation. He's not rushing. He knows we're watching." Maya wiped the frost from her lips. "Then he's testing us, trying to make us move first." Adam gave a grim nod. "And if we move, we die." They couldn't stay hidden for long. The valley offered no cover, and Valerius's men carried motion sensors and thermal drones. Time was shrinking like the daylight. Adam knew he needed to do something drastic, something Valerius wouldn't expect. He glanced at Maya, then at Saber. "We draw them out." Her brow furrowed. "You mean bait?" "I mean misdirection," Adam corrected, though they both knew the truth. Below, one of the jeeps peeled off from the main convoy and began climbing toward the ridge. The driver, a wiry soldier with a shaved head and a rifle slung carelessly over his back, leaned out the window, scanning with binoculars. He was Private Anzor Dima, young, nervous, his breath fogging as he muttered to himself in Russian. He had joined Valerius's force 6 months earlier after losing his family in a bombing that no one took credit for. Since then, fear had been his compass, obedience his only shelter. Adam watched him through the scope and whispered, "He's green. I can use that." Saber's tail flicked once, the signal that the dog understood. Adam loaded a smoke grenade, aimed for the far side of the ridge, and fired. The hiss of release split the silence. Thick gray smoke erupted across the snow, curling and billowing like storm clouds. Anzor froze, then shouted into his radio, "Contact, North Ridge!" The jeeps below roared to life, engines growling as they turned uphill. "Move!" Adam hissed. He pulled Maya to her feet. She gritted her teeth, refusing to slow him down. Saber took point, weaving through the broken terrain. They descended into a narrow gorge, lined with dead pines and jagged ice. The walls closed in around them, and for a brief moment the world felt muffled, as if they'd slipped beneath the surface of time. They emerged into a basin, wide, flat, and empty, except for a small weather station half buried in snow. The old metal tower leaned against the wind. Its antenna snapped. Its solar panels shattered. Adam led them inside. The building was dark, its air thick with dust and the faint scent of oil. Inside, under a broken light, sat Sergeant Elena Morozova, a local resistance fighter who once supplied intel to the SEALs. She was in her mid-30s, tall and wiry, with close-cropped blonde hair and a scar that ran from her jaw to her collarbone. Her uniform was mismatched, pieces of U.S. gear and Russian field clothing, and her hands were raw from the cold. She looked up when they entered, her blue eyes sharp despite exhaustion. "Ward," she said, her voice low, rasped by smoke and fatigue. "You're late." Adam exhaled in relief. "Didn't expect anyone left alive out here." "I almost wasn't," Elena replied dryly, tossing him a canteen. "Valerius wiped out the last resistance post 2 nights ago. I barely escaped. He's building something big in that compound. Not just a weapons depot. Something worse." Maya drank the water, her hands shaking. "They're using my black box to trace Allied transmissions," she said. "We saw it broadcasting." Elena's eyes darkened. "Then he already knows where your people are. If he links that signal to your team's last coordinates, he'll bomb them off the map." Adam leaned against the wall, every muscle tensing. He knew what had to be done. Disable the transmitter, cut off Valerius's tracking network, and give his team a chance to live. But to do that, someone had to go inside the base. "You know the layout?" Adam asked. Elena nodded. 2 main gates, 1 maintenance tunnel under the south wall, heavily mined but passable if you know the path. "Show me." She pulled a folded map from her vest, spreading it across a dusty table. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline held too long. "You'll need a distraction to pull their patrols," she said. "Something loud." Adam's gaze flicked toward Maya. She shook her head instantly. "Don't even say it." "You're the only one they're hunting," he said softly. "If they see you near the northern ridge, they'll move every unit there." "And you'll slip in alone?" she snapped. "That's suicide." Elena watched silently, her eyes moving between them. "You two always fight like this?" "Only when we're trying not to die," Adam said, a faint grin cutting through the tension. Then his face hardened again. "We don't have another choice." Outside, Saber barked once, short, urgent. The sound cut through the cold like a blade. Adam ran to the doorway, scanning the horizon. Through the gray dawn he saw it, a glint of metal moving along the ridge. Drones, 6 of them, hovering low, red sensors blinking like eyes. "They found us," he said. Elena grabbed her rifle. "We hold them off here." "No," Adam said quickly. "They'll call Valerius. This place is compromised." He pointed to the back door. "You take Maya and go south through the canyon. Saber and I will buy you time." Maya's voice trembled with anger. "Adam, you can't—" He cut her off with a look, the same quiet authority that had carried him through every mission. "You said it yourself. If they track that signal, my team dies. I won't let that happen." He crouched beside Saber, scratching behind the dog's ear. The shepherd leaned into the touch, his breath misting. "Stay with me, boy," Adam murmured. "One last run." Maya's eyes glistened. "You always said that before the worst parts." He smiled faintly. "And I always came back." The moment hung between them, fragile, heavy, final. Then Saber barked again, louder. The drones were closer now, their rotors whirring like locusts. Adam stepped out into the snow, rifle raised. The first drone locked on, its red beam sliding across his chest. He squeezed the trigger. The bullet hit home. The machine burst into sparks. The others began to circle, lights flashing like warning sirens. He turned once, shouting over the wind, "Go!" Maya hesitated, then followed Elena through the rear door, limping into the canyon. Saber darted forward, teeth bared, ripping another drone from the air. Adam fired again and again until the world was a chaos of snow, fire, and metal. Then, between the flashes, he saw a silhouette cresting the ridge. Tall, fur-lined coat, cold blue eyes watching through the smoke. Valerius? The commander's voice carried over the wind, deep and certain. "You can't hide from me, Ward. Not here." Adam's jaw set. "Watch me." The air cracked with a sniper's shot, and the chapter ended in silence. The shot split the mountain air like lightning. Adam Ward hit the snow, the force of the bullet spinning him halfway around. Pain flared through his shoulder, sharp, electric, alive. He rolled behind a broken ridge, biting down hard to stop the scream. The snow beneath him bloomed red. Above the wind, a familiar voice carried across the ridge. Commander Valerius, calm, deliberate, the voice of a man who had killed so often it had become second nature. "You've run far enough, Ward." Adam pressed a gloved hand to the wound. It was high, a graze through muscle, not bone. He could still move, barely. Saber crawled beside him, ears back, muzzle flecked with snow and blood from the destroyed drones. The German shepherd's amber eyes were locked on Adam, waiting for a command that didn't come. "Stay low," Adam whispered through gritted teeth. "He's got the ridge." On the opposite slope, Valerius stood tall, over 6 feet, broad and lean, wrapped in his signature gray fur-lined coat. His face was pale and angular, with a scar running down the left side of his jaw like a lightning bolt. His hair was cropped short, silver threaded through the black, and his eyes were an unnatural pale blue, cold as glacier ice. Once, years ago, those eyes had belonged to a man of principle, a Spetsnaz operative who'd lost faith after watching his unit slaughter civilians for political theater. Since then, his moral compass had inverted. Now he believed in control, the kind that only fear could enforce. He walked down the slope as if unbothered by the cold. "You could have stayed hidden," he called, "but you came back for her. Admirable, but stupid." Adam reached for his rifle, ignoring the pulsing ache in his shoulder. He could see Valerius's men fanning out below, 5 of them, moving in careful arcs. One carried a heavy machine gun, another a flamethrower, its nozzle gleaming like a serpent's tongue. The man wielding it was Ivan Krestov, Valerius's personal enforcer, a mountain of muscle wrapped in black thermal armor, his beard thick and matted with frost. Ivan had the face of a butcher, the kind of brute who smiled while breaking bones. Valerius raised a hand, and the squad halted. "Bring him in alive," he said simply. "The sister, too." Adam fired first. The shot echoed, clean and precise, catching one soldier high in the chest. Before the others reacted, Saber bolted from cover, a blur of fur and fury. He slammed into Ivan's leg, teeth sinking deep into flesh. Ivan roared, swinging the flamethrower's stock like a club, but Saber was faster, darting sideways, his growl low and primal. The brief distraction was enough. Adam moved, rolling from behind the ridge and firing again, dropping another guard. He didn't wait to see if they fell. He turned and ran, blood dripping from his sleeve, every step a thunderbolt of pain. Snow sprayed behind him as he dove into the forest's edge. Valerius's voice followed, steady and relentless. "You can't outrun ghosts, Ward." Branches whipped past him. Saber raced at his side, limping but determined. Adam's breath burned in his throat. He stumbled into a clearing, the remnants of an old cable lift station, the metal frame twisted and half buried under snow. He ducked inside the control shack. It reeked of rust and kerosene. Through the cracked window, he could see the smoke from Valerius's men closing in. He needed time and a signal. His radio was dead, but Maya still had Elena. If they'd reached the canyon exit, they could circle back for him. He grabbed a flare gun from a crate, wiped the frost off the barrel, and fired straight into the sky. A red streak cut through the gray like a dying comet. Down in the valley, Elena saw it. The resistance fighter had carried Maya across half a mile of frozen terrain, her own lungs aching from exhaustion. "That's him!" Maya gasped, grabbing Elena's arm. "He's alive." Elena's blue eyes narrowed. "And surrounded?" She glanced around the canyon. Abandoned vehicles from the old mining operation lay half buried in snow, metal husks, rusted but intact. She pointed toward one, a transport truck with a flatbed trailer. "We'll use that. Get in." Maya hesitated. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious," Elena said, a ghost of a grin flickering across her lips. "Now move." Back at the ridge, Valerius knelt where Adam had fallen, studying the blood trail. His movements were unhurried, methodical. "He's not dead," he said. "Wounded but moving downhill." Ivan, grimacing, tightened the bandage around his bitten leg. "Let me finish it, Commander." Valerius looked up. "You already failed once. Don't fail again." His tone was calm, but the edge in his voice was razor-sharp. Ivan swallowed hard, nodded, and limped off to rally his men. Adam heard the crunch of boots behind him. He reloaded, his hands shaking from blood loss. "Saber," he whispered. The dog looked up, panting, muzzle red. "Guard the door." Saber's tail twitched once. Acknowledgement. Through the window, Adam saw movement. Ivan and 2 soldiers approaching from the right flank. He had 1 clip left, maybe 10 rounds. He breathed deep, forcing calm. The world slowed. The pain dulled. Training took over. He fired through the window, hitting the lead soldier. The other ducked behind a snowbank and fired back, bullets splintering the shack wall. Then from the north came a sound that didn't belong, a low, grinding rumble. Engines? Heavy ones? Adam turned just in time to see a truck barreling down the slope. Elena was driving, eyes locked on the trail, her blonde hair whipping in the wind. Maya stood in the flatbed, pale and furious, clutching a rifle. Adam couldn't help it. He laughed. Relief, disbelief, pride, all tangled in one breath. The truck slammed through the enemy line like a snowplow, scattering men and debris. Maya fired in controlled bursts, the recoil jolting her wounded arm. Saber bounded forward, leaping onto the hood as the vehicle skidded sideways. Adam dove out of the shack and landed hard in the snow just as Elena braked. "You look terrible," she shouted. "Good to see you, too," Adam grunted, hauling himself into the truck bed. Valerius appeared at the ridge above, framed against the burning sky. He raised a hand. "End it," he ordered. Ivan stumbled forward, lighting the flamethrower. The hiss of fuel filled the air. "Go!" Adam yelled. Elena gunned the engine. The truck roared to life, fish-tailing through snow. Fire arced past them, igniting trees in a line of molten orange. The heat was instant and brutal. Maya clung to the railing, shouting something Adam couldn't hear over the roar. Saber barked wildly, his ears flat. Valerius watched them vanish into the smoke, the ghost of a smile on his lips. "Let them run," he said softly. "They'll lead me where I want to go." As the truck sped toward the canyon, the mountain behind them erupted, a controlled detonation, bright as day. The shock wave hit like a hammer. The world turned to white, and then nothing. Silence returned before the snow settled. For a long moment there was no sound but the hiss of wind through shattered pines. Smoke drifted lazily from the collapsed ridge where the explosion had torn the mountain open. The truck lay half buried in a snowdrift, its windshield spider-webbed, the engine steaming like a dying beast. Adam Ward awoke to the taste of iron and the sting of cold air on his face. His head throbbed. His right arm refused to move, and when he tried to speak, only a ragged breath came out. "Maya!" A groan answered him from behind the twisted metal. Maya Ward crawled out through the broken passenger door, her flight suit torn, one sleeve soaked with blood. Her face was pale, but alive, eyes squinting against the glare of morning. "I'm here," she said hoarsely. "Elena's inside. She's hurt bad." Adam staggered toward the wreckage, clutching his shoulder. Saber limped at his side, one paw wrapped in cloth, fur blackened at the edges from the fire. The dog's ribs moved fast under his skin, his breath shallow but determined. Adam knelt and pressed his forehead to the shepherd's. "You did good, boy. You stay with me." Saber's tail thumped once against the snow. Inside the truck, Sergeant Elena Morosova lay pinned beneath a collapsed beam. Blood soaked the front of her jacket, spreading in slow rhythm with each shallow breath. Her face was ghostly white, lips cracked, but her eyes still held that fierce blue fire. "I've had worse landings," she whispered, forcing a smirk. Adam gripped the beam, braced his legs, and heaved. It shifted an inch, no more. Maya joined him, ignoring the pain in her leg. Together they managed to free Elena, dragging her into the open air. She gasped, clutching her side, and laughed weakly. "You two are terrible at dying quietly." "Save your strength," Adam said, pulling a thermal blanket over her. "We'll get you out." Elena's smile faded. "You won't. If Valerius lives, he'll hunt you across every border." Adam looked toward the ridge. The explosion had sealed the main pass, but he knew Valerius wasn't dead. The man was too meticulous, too careful. If the mountain hadn't buried him, he'd be regrouping already. "Then we finish it," Adam said. Hours passed as the storm cleared, leaving a sky of deep cobalt and cold sunlight. The world felt hollow, emptied of everything but ice and smoke. Elena's condition worsened. Her breathing grew shallow, her words slurred. Adam fashioned a sled from broken panels of the truck, wrapping her in blankets. Maya protested, voice cracking, "You can't move her. She needs a medic." "There's a radio tower west of here," Adam said. "Old Soviet installation. If I can reach it, I can call evac." Saber barked once, as if agreeing. They moved through the ruins of the avalanche, each step sinking into waist-deep snow. Adam pulled the sled with his good arm, muscles trembling. Maya walked beside him, rifle slung across her back, eyes scanning the horizon. Her face had changed. The playfulness she once carried in her gaze was gone, replaced by something colder, something like his own. The tower appeared at dusk, a black silhouette against a bleeding sky, half collapsed, its antenna bent like a crucifix in the wind. They found the entrance half buried but intact. Inside, The air smelled of rust and ozone. Old equipment hummed weakly under emergency power. Adam brushed snow from a console, twisting the dials until static filled the room. A voice crackled through the speaker, faint, distorted, but real. "Ghost Actual. This is Fleet Command. Identify." Adam leaned over the mic. "This is Lieutenant Ward. We have survivors. Request immediate extraction at grid." A gunshot shattered the moment. The radio exploded in a spray of sparks. Maya ducked, instinctively reaching for her rifle. From the doorway came the echo of boots on metal. Then a voice, calm and familiar. "You really thought an avalanche would kill me?" Valeria stepped from the shadows, coat torn and dusted with ash, blood streaking his temple. He looked almost serene, like a man stepping out of confession. In one hand, he held a pistol. In the other, a radio detonator. "Drop it," Adam ordered, raising his weapon despite his shaking arm. Valerius tilted his head, almost amused. "Still giving orders with one arm? You never learned when to stop." His pale eyes drifted to Maya. "The pilot. You caused me more trouble than you're worth." Maya spat blood onto the floor. "Sorry for being inconvenient." Valerius's lips twitched, not quite a smile, more an acknowledgement. "I admired your father once," he said. "He believed loyalty made men strong. I learned it makes them weak." "Then maybe that's why you're alone," Adam growled. The air tightened between them, two predators circling the same fire. Saber growled low, stepping in front of Adam. The dog's fur bristled, hackles raised, eyes locked on Valerius. "Loyal creature?" Valerius murmured. "Shame he'll die for your mistakes." He lifted the pistol. The shot came fast, but Saber was faster. He lunged, slamming into Valerius's chest. The gun fired wild, ricocheting off metal. They fell together, a tangle of fur and fury. Valerius cursed, elbowed the dog aside, and staggered to his feet. But the moment's delay was enough. Adam fired. The bullet struck Valerius just below the ribs. He froze, eyes wide, staring down at the spreading red. "You think this changes anything?" he rasped. "It changes everything," Adam said. Valerius staggered backward, hitting the console. The sparks danced across his coat as he slid to the floor. "You'll see," he whispered, his voice fading. "Men like me never die. We become storms." Then his head fell, eyes open to nothing. The silence that followed was absolute. Adam lowered his rifle. Maya exhaled shakily, tears cutting clean lines through the dirt on her face. Saber limped to Adam's side, pressing his head into his master's hand. Adam knelt, running his fingers through the dog's fur. "Good boy," he whispered. They buried Valerius beneath the snow outside the tower. There was no ceremony, no words, only the wind carrying his name into the mountains. By nightfall, Elena was fading fast. She called Adam over, her voice barely audible. "You did it," she said. "The signal. It went through before he shot it. Your team's coming." Adam squeezed her hand. "You'll see them yourself." She smiled faintly, eyes closing. "I already have." Then she was gone. Maya wept quietly beside her, one hand resting on Elena's still shoulder. Saber whimpered once, a soft sound that echoed louder than any explosion. Hours later, the sound of rotors filled the air, distant at first, then rising to a thunderous heartbeat. A searchlight cut through the clouds. The Black Hawk descended like an angel carved in steel. Soldiers jumped down, their uniforms marked with blue insignias. One of them, Captain Reese Donovan, a tall man with dark skin and tired eyes, approached Adam, His voice carried the weight of command. "You've been through hell, Lieutenant." "Not hell," Adam said, "just winter." Reese looked at the bodies, at Elena, at Valerius's grave. "You saved more than you lost." Adam didn't answer. He just looked to Maya, who stood beside Saber, both watching the sunrise. The light spilled across the horizon, golden, fragile, infinite. As the helicopter lifted them from the mountain, Maya leaned close to her brother. "What now?" Adam stared out at the wide expanse below, his voice quiet but certain. "Now we go home." Below them, the snow began to fall again, soft and endless, covering the scars of men who had fought for something greater than orders, for loyalty, for love, for redemption. And somewhere in that storm, the mountain finally slept. When the snow settled over the Caucasus, it buried more than footprints and blood. It buried fear, leaving behind grace. It wasn't strength or luck that saved them. It was mercy, unseen, undeserved, but real. Maybe the miracle wasn't surviving the mountain, but finding faith in the silence that followed. Because sometimes, when the world grows cold and still, that's when God whispers loudest. Through a soldier's last prayer, a sister's tears, and a dog's unshakable loyalty. If this story moved your heart, share it so others can feel that light too. Tell us where you're watching from and who you're praying for tonight. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of faith, loyalty, and redemption. May God bless you and everyone still searching for warmth in this cold world. Amen.